We are slaying monsters.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Got that recording, John. Got the recording, John. Got the mic, John. Katie, you got your mic, John.
Yeah.
The word John is a very like Philadelphia-based thing.
Yeah.
John, it's this word that just kind of means everything. Mm-hmm. You know, it's this sort of ubiquitous, universal. Whenever you need like thing, you're like that John. Get the John with the John, and we'll go to the John, right?
Jawn.
Jawn.
Yes.
John.
John.
And so I wanna just put this little bug in our listeners' ears and minds for later on in this episode when we talk about words that sort of mean everything. Because this will be a theme that we come back to a little bit later. But Philadelphia, we're very proud of this John word.
I actually had lived in Philly for quite a while before I was made aware of this word.
Yeah, me too.
Because if you're not from Philly, you wouldn't really know about it. And then you have to meet a local or two.
Exactly. And I went to college in Philly, and so everybody was kind of a transplant. And so I didn't mix with people that are Philly people, really. It took me many years. When I went into the workforce, that's when it happened.
Yeah, I feel like Philly is a little bit, it's unlike New York in this way, where New York, you could meet native New Yorkers like in the wild. But I feel like in Philly, like people that aren't from Philly will like congregate together, and then I don't know. It's like it can sometimes take a second to meet like actual Philadelphians.
Yeah, it's a little bit more sequestered than New York, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Like there are places where the out of towners are, and then there are places where the Philadelphia people are. And
Yes.
sometimes they mix, but more often than not, the out of towners go to the Philadelphia places. The Philadelphia people don't really go to the out of towner places.
Like the touristy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we don't spend a whole lot of time at that Liberty Bell, John.
That is true.
Yeah. Anyway, John, what were you going to tell us about it?
That John?
Yeah.
I mean, EJ, you want to bring us into this so we can talk about those dinosaur Johns?
Sure. Okay, well, we are slaying monsters. We got Maddie J.
Hey.
We got Katie.
Hi.
And I'm EJ, and we're gonna start this John off with some dinosaur talk.
Dinosaur Johns.
Woohoo!
So, in our last episode, we talked about German rocket scientist Willy Ley, who became convinced that there were dinosaurs living in the jungles of Africa. And he based that on the flawed thinking of the time, which was that the indigenous people who lived there didn't really understand their history and their mythology, and all of that folklore and stuff had to be interpreted by European thinkers. When he started to follow that thread, he uncovered a manuscript from the German explorer Ludwig Freiherr von Stein zu Lausnitz, who claimed to have spoken with the locals about a sauropod-type dinosaur in Cameroon. Despite never having seen it, and the fact that it sounded more like a swimming elephant than an actual dinosaur, Ley decided that this population of undiscovered prehistoric beasts was living in the jungles of interior Africa. This seemingly confirmed his suspicion that the dragon that was depicted on the Ishtar Gate was actually a brontosaurus, because it kinda looked like one. Ley published all of this in his book, The Lungfish, the Dodo, and the Unicorn, an excursion into romantic zoology.
Romantic zoology.
Romantic
I love
zoology.
Yeah.
And it's worth pointing out that he didn't really intend for that to be taken fully seriously either. This romantic zoology, as he was calling it, was like kind of a fanciful reimagining of mythological animals as if they existed. And so he took things like the unicorn and said, okay, if we have a unicorn, what are the biology that would make it exist? How would it be if the unicorn existed in medieval times and continued throughout today? And what would that be like? So it was all kind of like a philosophical thought experiment. And in this book, he put all of his beliefs about the dragon/dinosaurs that he saw on the Ishtar Gate. And then, of course, that he was conceptualizing in Africa.
So, but he believed that much, right? To be true?
Yeah, he did. So it was kind of like here and there. Like some things he believed in, some things he didn't, and he was sort of philosophizing the entire thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Got it. Yeah. So it was sort of like, oh shoot, I'm forgetting the word for it. When you write history as if a different outcome had happened, people will do it in seriousness to like try to talk about like potential different outcomes. Obviously, they know that the outcome that happened is the one that happened, but it sounds like he's kind of doing that with like animals he thinks might exist, but also using animals who don't exist. But he's like, what would happen if they had? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
I haven't seen the show, but For All Mankind kind of does this, where it's like if we had never stopped the space race with Russia, where would we be technologically at this time? It's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Isn't Man in the High Castle similar too?
Yes.
Like if they won?
Yeah, if the Nazis won, where would we be?
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's called alternative history, counterfactual history. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So he calls it romantic biology or romantic zoology.
I love that.
It's really great.
But the thing is, romantic zoology and this book was the perfect depiction of a burgeoning new field of study, cryptozoology. Founded in the 1950s by zoologist Bernard Heuvelmans and naturalist and entertainer Ivan T. Sanderson, cryptozoology was just starting to come into the public consciousness when Lay published his own book. Legends of the Mokele-Mbembe, this sauropod in Africa, resonated with Ivan T. Sanderson. He had had his own encounter with a cryptid bat in Cameroon in the 1930s. EJ, you might remember we talked about this in the Minnesota Iceman series, but during an exploration across the Cross River, Sanderson was traveling with his companion Gerard Russell, and they decided to shoot and eat some bats because, that was the thing that they were going to eat.
They must have been hopefully quite desperate.
I certainly hope so. I don't know if bats are like good eating. I would think that there would be better things.
Yeah.
You're on a river, like fish, but I don't know.
Or just like larger birds, like even a bat. Like they're so small. Like I don't know. How much meat are you really getting?
Well, a lot, in fact, because Sanderson brought down a hammerhead bat and he waded out into the river to retrieve it. But according to him, he accidentally slipped on a tortoise and fell down, which caused him to be carried downstream by the current. It always cracks me up because he goes out of his way to specifically say that he slipped on a tortoise, not that he lost his footing. He was very sure-footed, and then he accidentally stepped on a tortoise and lost his footing.
But a tortoise, like, you mean a rock? Like, probably not a live animal.
No, it was a tortoise, Katie, and then it moved out from under his foot, and then he fell down.
Oh, I see.
So during all this commotion, during all this commotion, his companion, Russell, started screaming, "Look out!" And just as Sanderson regained his footing and stood up in the river, some kind of flying creature dive-bombed him. He describes it.
Then I let out a shout also, and instantly bobbed down under the water, because, coming straight at me, only a few feet above the water, was a black thing the size of an eagle. I had only a glimpse of its face. Yet that was quite sufficient, for its lower jaw hung open and bore a semicircle of pointed white teeth set about their own width apart from each other. When I emerged, it was gone. George was facing the other way, blazing off with his second barrel.
Blazing off with his second barrel will always sound like a euphemism for masturbation to me.
Does that mean that he has two dicks, though, Matt?
I maybe.
Like one was spent, and now he's maybe. Okay, now this is very cryptozoological.
It sounds like those romantasy books I hear about.
Yeah, is this the romantic history that we're talking about?
It really was. It was romantic zoology, if you know what I mean.
Very romantic.
Now we know what he really meant.
Yes.
So this whole encounter shook up these men so much that they returned to their camp. And while they were retelling this story, some of the locals at the camp started nodding knowingly, and they said that the men had encountered what they called Alai Xiao. And this was allegedly a flying cryptid with a 6 to 12 foot wingspan, like some kind of gigantic bird or bat. Sanderson didn't believe it was a mammal, however. He believed that it was a prehistoric avian animal, like a pterosaur. Sanderson wasn't alone in his assumption that there were pterosaurs in Africa either. There was another naturalist named Frank Meland who wrote about a creature called the Kongamato, which he claimed translated into the, quote, breaker of boats. Local legend held that the Kongamato was a flying, lizard-like creature with a 4 to 7 foot wingspan and these membranous wings like a bat. Mayland requested some books on dinosaurs while he was staying in Africa. He had them delivered to his camp, and when he showed them to his guide, a man named Ka Nyenga, he identified a pterosaur illustration as the Kongamato. There's a likely candidate for both of these sightings, and I'm curious if you have any thoughts as to what that might be.
I mean, it's a bat. Is this really that hard?
Yeah.
It's a bat.
I mean, like, there are animals that exist that have webbed wings.
Yeah, these people, I'm really disappointed. Like, you're supposed to be some scientist person, and like, don't you?
Well, okay.
What?
Also, I wasn't going to get into all of this, but Ivan Sanderson is not a scientist. Ivan Sanderson was the son of a whiskey maker, and he was kind of an explorer and what we would call a naturalist, but not a trained biologist or zoologist. He became famous because he got really into animals, started keeping animals. He would like buy up exotic animals and had a little zoo in New Jersey, like a private zoo in New Jersey, kind of like Joe Exotic a little bit. And then he would showcase those animals. He would bring them to TV shows. Do you remember Brian Fellows' Safari Planet?
I was just thinking of Brian Fellows' Safari Planet. Yeah. Oh my God.
On SNL. Like, he was kind of like
Tracy
that guy,
Morgan.
right? Yeah.
Wait, how? I don't know this.
Brian Fellows. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, you never saw this sketch?
No, I'll look it up.
This
Yeah.
was back when, I'm sorry, I won't say anything. I have very controversial opinions of SNL. Let's just say I enjoyed SNL at that time. It was very great.
Oh, well, the Lorne Michaels thing is that everybody loves the SNL from their like high school and college years.
Yeah, and they don't
And
understand
they
it.
don't understand anything that comes after.
Yeah.
But
It's true.
yeah, Lorne Michaels
I
has
don't
said
know.
that.
I've never watched SNL extensively, even like in high school and college. I never really watched it. So I don't have a favorite period. I know some of the classics, of course.
Yeah.
Well, and anyway,
Yeah.
it's okay. You are making more of a case against him. Like, he had animals. He kept animals. He like knew. You can't tell me the guy doesn't know what a bat is, though.
Yes. And
Yeah,
the
he
thing-
studied animals, even if it was a hobby, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
But he became very renowned because he had all these exotic animals that weren't necessarily commonly known in America at the time. We're talking like 50s, 60s, stuff like that. So he actually became the guy that people would go to be like, hey, can you analyze these hair samples or something like that? Look at this skin, something, compare it to your collection, figure out what it is. He absolutely should have known that this was a bat, but he didn't.
Oh my God. That's crazy. Also, I feel like even though it sounds like, he had a collection, so he like kind of knew he was a hobbyist. And I don't want to put down hobbyists. Like there are quote unquote hobbyists that know just as much as some experts because of the amount of time and effort that they've like put into their studies. So I want to like caveat that. But like there's also a little bit of this that feels like today's like influencers on certain topics where they fashion themselves as a thought leader about something, but like if you talk to anyone who really knows what they're talking about, they're like superficial at best. There seems to be a tinge of that going on with Ivan Sanderson.
Yeah, I'd say that's a decent comparison for Sanderson. Yeah. For the record, I truly believe that what Sanderson saw, and likely what Mellon saw, were hammerhead bats. These are native to Central and Western Africa. They're a species of megabat, which is to say that they are a ridiculously big bat. No. Someone just did a Google image search.
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you're seeing, but they're kind of cute to me.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Okay, now that I got over the shock of it, they're a little cute.
So their wingspans can stretch up to 1 meter or 3 feet.
Wow.
And they live up to their name.
Enormous.
Yeah, they have this like canine snout and this oversized nose. And they do kind of look like dinosaurs. They look weird because you think of bats as having those like kind of squished, toothy faces like the Dracula bat and stuff.
They're cute.
Yeah.
Well, these are cute too.
Yeah, but like I'm looking, his description of like the teeth, like I could totally see that with this huge bat because if it had its mouth open, like yeah, it looks like a dog almost.
Yeah, it
Looks
does.
like a puppy dog.
Yeah, like a dog with bat wings.
Yeah.
Sanderson was so convinced.
Sorry, I saw another picture. Sorry to cut you off, Matt. I saw another picture. This woman is holding it by its little feet. It's so big.
Yeah, they're huge.
Holy shit.
They're huge. Yeah. Yeah, they, like I said, they have a 3-foot wingspan, and their bodies, they're like the size of a child, basically.
Yeah.
Not a baby, like a toddler.
Yeah, and I get like this guy who he's used to little bats. So he sees a big bat and he's like, oh, it's got to be some kind of dinosaur.
Yeah.
Because,
especially when you've just slipped on a tortoise, apparently, and you stand up and suddenly the thing is flying directly at you. I can see how, like, you don't really have a sense of scale. You're a little freaked out, and it's, according to him, it's dive bombing him. It probably wasn't dive bombing him. It was probably just upset that somebody was crossing the river and, flying by. But
do we know what time of day this was?
I don't know.
It was probably getting on dusk if I had to guess because it's a bat, right? So like,
probably,
I don't know. Like that would also contextualize the scene. Midday bat would be weird. So
unless it was disturbed, though.
Yeah, unless or it was ill, maybe.
Yeah,
because that can sometimes happen. I think that this is a really good example, though, of drawing a conclusion in the heat of the moment. We see this all the time with ghosts and cryptozoology and everything. We have to take into context how scared was the hunter in the woods. Like, the hunter's really comfortable in the woods. He knows the woods, but a scary thing is happening to him right now, and then he sees something. And now his imagination is flying, trying to fill in blanks. And I think this is another instance of that.
Absolutely. So Sanderson is convinced that he encountered a pterosaur. And because he encountered a pterosaur, dinosaurs must still live in Africa. And if the pterosaur is there, there's probably others too. That's the line of logic here.
And nobody helped him because he went back and talked to these people and they were like, yeah, totally. Totally, man. And like, not like, oh no, there are hammerhead bats in our world.
The funny thing is, and I don't know that this is true, but we'll see this a little bit in the coming episodes. Sometimes I think that the natives and the locals are also telling stories to make fun of the outsiders. I don't know that happened here, but sometimes they do, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing this and kind of like giving him a hard time about it too.
Or not even make fun. They're just like telling stories, and they're just like,
Yeah.
It's going to be funny if this guy believes it.
So anyway, Sanderson gets back to the States, and he picked up Willy Lay's romantic zoology book, and all of a sudden his theory is confirmed. So he told his friend and fellow cryptozoologist Bernard Heuvelmans, who quickly jumped on the dinosaur bandwagon as well. Heuvelmans was actually a zoologist, like a real zoologist. He earned his PhD from the Free University of Brussels. The free here is not that he didn't pay for his university education. It was free thinking, because a lot of the schools in Brussels were actually owned or at least managed by the Catholic Church, and this one was like not a religious institution. So free thinking. Heuvelmans was a staunch opponent of the National Socialist Party, and he was actually imprisoned by the Nazis during World War II. He escaped and fled to Paris, where he worked as a lounge singer until the end of the war, when he moved to America and continued his work on speculative zoology.
What a career.
Wow.
It really was.
Cool.
This is just, I imagine him as like in cabaret for a time.
Yeah.
Eventually, he and Sanderson linked up, and they started calling this new field cryptozoology. Heuvelmans was so taken with the idea of living dinosaurs that he devoted an entire chapter in his book on the track of unknown animals to this topic. Heuvelmans was particularly interested in Lay's research on the Ishtar Gate and the dragon that supposedly was depicted there, that Lay, of course, thought was a brontosaurus. Heuvelmans actually concluded that it was an iguanodon because it looked more like an iguanodon than a sauropod, which personally I agree with, but as we said in the previous episode, it's just a made-up depiction of a dragon. All of this came at this very pivotal time in cryptozoological research. Sanderson and Heuvelmans brought this air of academic authority to this field that up until now had kind of been full of wild speculation and sort of outlandish theories. But you have Sanderson, who, for better or worse, is a respected naturalist and an animal collector. And he has a vast knowledge of the natural world. And then you have Heuvelmans, who has a PhD in zoology and has a lot of like weight and credence to his theories. Joining them in this burgeoning field was another academic, a Chicago biologist named Roy P. Mackal. Born in Milwaukee, Mackal served as a Marine in World War II before enrolling at the University of Chicago, received his bachelor's in biology and a PhD in zoology. So again, we have an academic entering into this speculative field. He spent the majority of his career at the University of Chicago's virology program, working on research that actually contributed to many modern biochemical and gene engineering technology that we have today. But his real passion came in the 1960s during a trip to Scotland. He was traveling around Loch Ness, and Mackal stopped to speak to some of these guys who were standing around the loch looking at it through binoculars. And these were members of the Loch Ness Phenomena Investigation Bureau.
I was going to say, was it Doc Shields?
That would be amazing, actually.
Oh, man.
That'd be absolutely incredible. I mean, truthfully, Shields was around at this time. So
I know. That's why I said it. I was like, it could have been him.
They probably did bump into each other at some point, which was, I'm sure, was hilarious for Shields. But these members had been monitoring the lake from mobile stations in hopes of catching a glimpse of Nessie. And that struck Mackal as kind of weird because they were using cameras mounted on their vans, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you're searching for a monster that lives in the water, right?
Unless Nessie pops her head up.
This is true.
Maybe that's what they're just hoping.
But
yeah,
But it really struck him because he was like, well, why aren't we looking under the water for something that lives under the water?
Yeah,
right?
right.
Why is our search confined to above the surface cameras, basically? And so the work fascinated him. And for the rest of his trip in Scotland, he kept looking for Nessie himself. Never got a glimpse of it, but he had absolutely been bitten by the cryptozoology bug. And so when he came back to America, he raised $5,000 in support of Loch Ness research. In return, the Bureau offered him the position of scientific director, and he was overjoyed and absolutely accepted. And he would continue in that role for another decade until the Bureau closed. But his push was for cutting-edge technology. He wanted them to use more advanced tech in their search. And so thanks to his fundraising, the team installed underwater cameras all around the loch and started performing sonar sweeps by boat. And then they would also have these boats that would drag underwater cameras along with them. Mackal developed these cameras alongside the longtime Loch Ness researchers Tim Dinsdale and Robert Rines. And those cameras actually yielded some of the most compelling photos of Nessie at that time. First, in 1972, the Bureau released 2 photos of an object which looked like a flipper. And then in 1975, they released 2 more. One of a long-necked body and one of an apparent head with these protrusions that look quite a bit like horns coming off of it. There's a lot that we can say about these photos. Honestly, the Dinsdale-Rhine experiments warrant a whole series on its own, but the short version and the important thing to keep in mind is that the released photos are modified touch-ups that are made to look much more compelling than they actually are. Darren Naish of Tetrapod Zoology noted that the original flipper photo looks quite a bit like the impact mark on the silty floor that the camera would make if it hit the ground and then was picked back up a couple inches and took a picture of the ground. The alleged head photo, which is also called the gargoyle photo, pretty creepy, pretty weird, but is almost certainly a tree stump or some other kind of junk in the loch. You can sort of see a snout, you can sort of see a brow ridge, but it's mostly pareidolia. The body photo is the most compelling of the bunch, but is missing a ton of detail. We don't know how big it is. There's nothing to indicate size, how far the camera is from the object, anything like that. Tim Dinsdale believed it was 18 feet long. Roy Mackal estimated it to be about 8 feet long. It might have been a fish. It might have been a picture of the underside of the boat that was dragging the camera. We don't really know. Getting in on the exploration himself, Mackal joined a 1969 expedition, which deployed a single-person submarine to hunt down Nessie. For this, Mackal devised what he called a biopsy harpoon. This was a dart that was fired from a crossbow that was fixed to the hull of the sub. Mackal believed that if they encountered the monster, the sub's operator could use the harpoon to get a tissue sample of it. Unfortunately for the scientist, but probably fortunately for Nessie, the harpoon was never used.
Also, fortunately for all the poor eels that live in the lake.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Loch Ness is that it's really hard to see because there's so much, there's so much peat in the loch.
Oh, right.
That the water is super murky. They actually compare it to being like the color of tea. So it's really hard to see anything in there. You wouldn't even know if you were coming up on a monster or an eel or anything until it was right in front of you. So you can only imagine that operator would be like, stab, 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 stab.
Yeah.
Although he was initially convinced that the Loch Ness Monster must be a population of unknown amphibians, Mackal eventually revised his theory by the mid-1970s and published a book called The Monsters of Loch Ness, and proposed that the most likely candidate was a surviving and possibly evolved species of zeuglodon. an ancient serpentine whale. We now call these animals Basilosaurus, which means herbed lizard. Just kidding, it means king lizard.
Herbed lizard. Ah, you totally got me.
Me too. I was like, what?
I was like, wow, wait a minute.
Oh my gosh.
Herbed lizard. I'm an herbed lizard on the weekends, if you know what I mean. All right.
So just as a situation check here. So what we have is Willy Ley has proposed this idea of these ancient sauropods, these dinosaurs that might live in Africa, right? This thread gets picked up by Ivan Sanderson and Bernard Heuvelmans. Bernard Heuvelmans publishes his own book, or a chapter in his book about it. But now they're talking about it in Cryptozoology. Their contemporary here is Roy Mackal, who's been deeply invested in the Loch Ness investigation for a while and has now also sort of, in his own way, joined this theory too, except he's saying, not necessarily in Africa, but I think that these zeuglodons, these Basilosauruses, are probably still living in Loch Ness. So you have a couple different researchers now that are saying, we think we see evidence of existing dinosaurs in present day. By the mid-1970s, Mackal was giving lectures on the Loch Ness Monster. And after one of these lectures at Amarillo College in Texas, he was approached by a crocodile researcher named James Powell Jr. Powell had spent the last 10 years funding research into crocodiles and tree frogs in the southern US and Central America. But he had also become invested in cryptozoology after reading Ley's works and Sanderson and Heuvelmans. Given his experience with reptiles and the commonly held belief that crocodiles were quote-unquote living dinosaurs, Powell connected the stories of the Mokele-Mbembe and the African dinosaurs to his own research. He was intrigued and he resolved to fund a trip to Africa and search for this creature himself. This is the 1970s. This is Central Africa. It took years of diplomacy. So he makes it there in 1976. On paper, he was just conducting crocodile research, but he arrived with a paleontology book too, and a drive to find out if there was anything behind these dinosaur myths. Over the course of two expeditions, one in 76 and one in 79, Powell conducted interviews with several members of indigenous tribes who claimed that they had had encounters with dinosaurs. And his contacts described a creature called Nyen-Ya-Mala and Jago-Nini, which Powell believed were other names for Mokele-Mbembe. Quick aside here. There's a ton of different names for these creatures, and it's unclear if they all refer to the sauropod-style Mokele-Mbembe, or if they're referencing any actual animals at all. So the commonly held belief is that the name Mokele-Mbembe means one who stops the flow of rivers. The missionary Paul Olin contends that he's heard it mean rainbow or mystery as well. Brian Dunning of Skeptoid points out that it was also translated as to bathe or to cry by Cameroon locals. And I think it's very likely that the phrase Mokele-Mbembe is actually an all-purpose noun, like the word John. It seems to be the word that gets used when you don't know the right word for the thing you saw. For Powell, that means that these travelers who saw a hippo bob to the surface of a river, or a swimming elephant, or the tail of a crocodile, or whatever, might have called them Mokele-Mbembe as simply a way of saying that thing over there. Regardless, when Powell showed these people the pictures of a Diplodocus or a plesiosaur, they identified that as the Nyen-Ya-Mala. He tried with pictures of T-Rexes, Stegosauruses, Triceratopses too, but all the witnesses said, no, these are not correct, that they only saw long-necked animals. Okay? So Even showing them pictures from paleontology books, they pointed to the long-necked dinosaurs, said, "That's what I saw." He also remarked that the witnesses were able to correctly identify pictures of leopards, gorillas, hippos, elephants, and crocodiles, and they called them different than Mokele-Mbembe or any of these dinosaurs. So on its face, that seems convincing, right?
Sure. It means that they know animals. I don't
Right.
I don't know.
I guess it means that they have that in their heads they're differentiating between, you're clearly showing them rhinos, hippos, elephants, and there's a difference to them right now at this moment between those things and like a sauropod. Like they're like, no, we see the sauropod.
Right. You show them a rhino, they say that's a rhino. You show them a diplodocus, and they say that's Mokele-Mbembe, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they're not conflating these things. They're not saying like, look at the sauropod. Oh, that's an elephant. Sometimes they swim, right? Mm-hmm. That's what his theory is. Let's dive a little deeper into Powell's methods for a second, though. From Roy Mackal's book, A Living Dinosaur, we get this quote about the interview.
First, I showed him pictures of African animals found in the Gabonese jungles and asked him to identify each one, which he did unerringly. I then showed him a picture of a bear, which does not occur in Gabon. This he could not identify. I then showed him a picture of a diplodocus from a children's book of dinosaurs, and Nyamala, he answered, quite matter-of-factly. He said it was a rare animal that was found only in remote lakes deep in the jungle. Only the very greatest hunters have seen the Nyamala. He himself had never seen one.
Okay, let's unpack this because this changes the narrative a little bit. You have a guy who shows up at your house and asks you, please identify some pictures of animals for me. He's not asking you if they're real. He's just asking you if you can identify them. I mean, if somebody showed up at my house and showed me a picture of the xenomorph from the Alien franchise, I could identify that too, but it doesn't mean that they're real, and it doesn't mean that they're running around my neighborhood, right? He didn't say, are these things real? Have you seen them? He said, can you identify this?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that he says, like, only the greatest hunters have seen them, and I haven't seen one, which, like, to me indicates that in his mind, he thinks it's real, or it's like one of those myths that are like mostly myth, but a little bit real. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Like one of those stories that it's like, oh, we don't really know, but like we do have this story that only the greatest hunters have seen them.
Have seen them too, not have killed one, not have brought one back. It's not like the greatest hunter didn't kill one and bring back the skull, and the skull is sitting on top of my house, you know, or his house or something like that. It's like they've seen them, which also kind of makes me wonder a little bit, is that just a story that the hunter is saying to show what a great hunter they are? They're like, only I could track this. You could never track this. You have to be great like me. But you're absolutely correct there. This witness who's identifying these animals has not seen this creature themselves. They'd only heard about it and about how mysterious and secretive they were. That's not even a far-fetched story in Europe. We literally just talked about the Loch Ness Monster. I don't think there's conclusive evidence for Nessie, which means that even if someone points to a picture of a plesiosaur and says, that's the Loch Ness Monster, it doesn't mean that there's a plesiosaur living in Loch Ness. I think this, again, speaks to the attitude that these Western researchers had when they were dealing with what they considered, quote-unquote, primitive people. There's this strange idea that these people were incapable of lying or myth-making or having their own stories or legends. But the thing is, no one believes that Batman is a real person. But if you show a picture of him to a lot of people, they can tell you all kinds of shit about him. Like, oh, he lives in a cave. Oh, he swings around the city. He drives an armored sports car. He gets in surfing contests with clowns, you know, whatever, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the polling problem. Like they talk a lot about this in political polling, how the answer that you get depends a lot on how you ask the question. Mm-hmm. And so, do you have a problem with X is very different than saying, like, would you still support a candidate even if they did X, right? You can have a problem with it and still support someone even if they support it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think perhaps what you're pointing to, Matt, in this situation is something similar where it's like, you can ask someone if they know what something is. You're not asking them if they think it's real.
Right.
You know?
Or if they've seen it, or if they have evidence of it, or anything like that. They're just saying, can you identify this thing?
Right.
And I think another important aspect of all of this that we'll touch on a little bit later as well is Powell and eventually Mackal go in with this idea that for some reason the African people that they were talking to had no idea what dinosaurs were, which is completely off base and wrong. You know, it was this idea that they were going to show them these books and all of a sudden they were going to see a sauropod illustration for the first time. But no, dude, like everybody in the world knew what dinosaurs were by the 1960s and 70s, you know?
Yeah.
The more Powell talked to the locals about these animals, the more unbelievable it became, kind of like Batman. Another witness claimed to have actually seen the creature come ashore during the day, which was apparently unusual because they mostly come out at night, mostly. But this witness, a man named Mokele-Mbembe, described a long-necked creature about 33 feet long and weighing 5 tons. This animal, he said, had hair-like filaments on the back of its neck and 2 pouches on its shoulders where it allegedly stored fruit. According to Obiang, the animal was immortal, invulnerable, and, quote, the king of the waters.
How creative.
Yeah,
I know.
It is.
Also, like, weird shoulder pockets for fruit. Like, honestly, that's where you're throwing me off. I'm like, what other animal has that? And also, we're not in Australia where all of the little pocket animals live.
Yeah.
So, like,
right. The little pocket animal. That should be Australia's new slogan. Excuse me.
Little pocket animals.
Where all the little pocket animals live.
Polly Pocket.
Aw.
I'm just saying.
It's very cute. Yeah, no, you're right. I was thinking filament on the back of the neck. That sounds could be a horse.
Yeah, I mean,
Kangaroo horse.
Kangaroo horse.
All right.
Yes.
None of this sounds like a real animal.
No.
A hair on the back of the neck, yes, maybe. Maybe, you know, we have horses with manes and stuff like that. But we have no evidence that supports that sauropods had snack pouches. And the immortality thing is a huge tip-off that this was a local legend, not a flesh and blood creature.
Yeah.
Even so, if you have a description of the animal and someone showed you a picture of it, you'd identify that if it was real or not. Again, remember Batman or the Xenomorph. If you have a cultural mythology of a thing and somebody shows you a picture of the thing, you're going to say, oh, that's the thing, right?
Right.
This is probably as good a time as any to talk about real sauropod biology, like the real biology of these dinosaurs. Because unsurprisingly, while some things will line up with witness testimony, a lot of them will be flat out wrong. One of the major issues with the reports of these neo-dinosaurs is that they tend to follow the outdated assumptions of dinosaur biology, many of which changed or have been refined in the decades since Powell's investigation originally occurred. Now, the original depiction of a sauropod was this lumbering behemoth stomping around the jungles, you know, kind of like a grazing cow, dragging its tail behind it, its head held really high. We all know this image, right? Early paleontologists like Cope and Marsh believed that the bulk of these animals was too much to bear on its own. And so they always thought that they would be so heavy that they would crush themselves under their own weight. And they postulated that the sauropods spent a lot of their time in bodies of water, like lakes and rivers, where buoyancy kind of supported their size, and it became less of a hindrance. So they
then
thought,
we learned they had hollow bird bones.
That's
Anyway.
right.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. But for a long time, we thought that sauropods lived in like swamps and marshes, you know? Mm-hmm. But modern paleontology rejects that. They didn't come from swampy regions. They came from forest climates, like woodlands. Dietary evidence shows that they mostly ate ferns, which means that their necks aren't going to be held really high up in the air. They're probably going to be parallel to the ground most of the time. They were like dwelling off the things that were on the ground.
Or they're like kind of like horses, where their necks are going up and down depending on what they're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or like
I'm guessing.
No, absolutely. Like or water birds, because since their bones are hollow, I think we can really directly connect them to the behaviors of water birds. The way that their cranes just
Yeah. Yeah, except not in the water. We'll talk about that in a second.
Not in the water,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes. Uh-huh.
But they have the neck that's like their neck can go all the way down and all the way up, and it's not really a problem.
Their tail was a support structure. So it didn't drag along the ground, but it probably whipped back and forth. It was like a counterbalance to the neck. Because if you had that really long neck that's either out in front or slightly elevated, you need a tail to balance yourself out as you walk. Vertebrate paleontologist Darren Naish contends that sauropods, they had these semi-flexible necks and were probably capable of elevating their heads sometimes to reach higher food sources in trees. But many of the fossil specimens, like those of the Camarasaurus, had very broad neck bases at their shoulders. And so some of our more modern models actually have long necks but tapered necks. So rather than thinking about like this kind of serpentine neck, it was probably something that was more like a triangle with really broad support at the base.
So again, kind of like a horse, maybe.
Yeah, actually, like a horse, or maybe more like I guess giraffes are kind of that way, sort of.
Yeah, they have, because their neck starts at their broad shoulders and then it gets skinnier as it goes up.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah. Well, their head is totally.
What is giraffe?
Their head is smaller than the base of their neck, though.
right now.
No, it is, right? Their head is smaller than the base of their neck, though.
Yeah. No, it definitely is like a triangle. Like
Yeah.
if you're looking at it from the side, it's much broader at the bottom than it is at the top.
Yeah, like you stick the Eiffel Tower on the shoulders of a sauropod. Right?
Makes sense.
Oh, giraffes are so cute.
They are so
Anyway, sorry,
majestic
I'm
and
getting
cute.
off. I'm getting off track. Okay.
I bet baby giraffes are really cute.
Can you imagine? Just like, I know we shouldn't domesticate wild animals, but I get it. I get when people are just like, all I want to do is snuggle with a baby giraffe. Like, I get it. I get the impulse.
Yeah, you could. I would like bonsai a giraffe so it stays a baby all the time.
Exactly.
How do you do that?
Do not bonsai giraffes.
Do not bonsai giraffes. This is
Okay.
just whimsical. We're just talking whimsically and romantically right now.
Yeah.
We're talking romantic zoology.
Romantic zoology.
Teacup giraffe.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry, you do this to pigs. We can do it. Don't do it to giraffes. Bad idea.
No,
but
bad
it would be
idea.
cute, though.
It would be cute. Okay.
Do you guys know about the pygmy hippopotamus?
Yes.
Yes.
Pygmy hippopotamus was actually one of the animals in early cryptozoology that was like a champion animal, because there were these stories about pygmy hippopotamus and then they actually came true. And so it's one of the things that cryptozoologists point to be like the field works. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Interesting.
You know, not to put out a cliche, but a stopped clock is right twice a day.
It's true.
Yep.
The funny thing about cryptozoology, actually, we've talked about it on the show before, is that eventually cryptozoology just becomes zoology. If it's like done well, it stops being cryptozoology. It's just regular zoology or biology.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
On top of the sauropod neck, there's evidence that there was an additional structure there too. I mean, we don't have supporting evidence per se, but there's speculation that they may have evolved dewlaps or flaps or fins or other structures around their neck as a display feature to attract mates.
Or a snack pouch.
Or a snack pouch. No, we have no evidence of snack pouches.
There is nothing more horrific than a fleshy snack pouch. Like, if I was like a killer, right, in some weird book, I'd be like, I'd take my victims and I'd put them in my snack pouch for later. Okay, Katie's having a good time. Katie's like...
Snack Pouches by E.J. Green coming
yeah,
in
I was like,
2028.
coming next. Yeah.
I was just like frozen and grossed out in a grossed out state.
Sorry, Katie.
I was just it just like so many pictures. My brain was like,
Yeah.
Would
Anyway.
you like a snack, little girl?
I do.
oh. You heard it here first. The little seed of EJ's next book.
Very gross.
I do think it's really cool to imagine like a brontosaurus or an apatosaurus with this long sort of dewlap, kind of like, you know, a dewlap, like the little flap that hangs back and forth. I think that's kind of cute. One of the major drawbacks to the image of this swamp-dwelling aquatic Mokele-Mbembe is that bone structure that we've talked about. It's hard to believe that these animals, as massive as these dinosaurs, could have been mobile on land beneath the crushing weight of their bodies. But as we said, research indicates that they were kind of like hot air balloons. Their bones were hollow, but their bodies also had natural air pockets that prevented them from becoming too heavy. Can you guys tell me why that might not work for an aquatic animal?
Well, I don't think you'd be able to go under the water. Is that part of it? I mean, I know that like ducks and some birds can dive, but they can't stay under. They have to. Their main thing is floating.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Katie. If our research, you know, with these hollow bones and things, if this is our model for the Mokele-Mbembe, they would be really terrible swimmers because sauropods in the water would have actually floated like pool noodles, not submerged like these neo-dinosaur reports. So if Mokele-Mbembe was real, it would be really easy to spot one in a lake or a river because it would just kind of be bobbing along like a duck.
A giant duck.
Wow. This kind of case closed, if you ask me.
Well, we're only on episode 3 of 6, so this case is nowhere near closed.
Okay. All right.
We have 6.
We
Wow.
have 6. Yeah.
I love it.
So, anyway.
Gonna be talking about dinosaurs all summer.
Oh, yes, we
Yeah.
are. This, of course, is all ignoring what I think is the most glaring piece of evidence that refutes these neo-dinosaur claims. In the 65 million years since the last extinction event, we have 0 fossils of sauropods anywhere in the world, but especially in Africa. And so what I mean by that is we have not found a brontosaurus skeleton that is 10 million years old or 10,000 years old. There's nothing. The Cretaceous Paleogene extinction happened, the dinosaurs disappeared, or I guess more accurately, evolved. But there are no intervening skeletons from any intervening times. There's no evidence at all.
The extinction event was an extinction event.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Right? You know, and sure, we have these animals that they evolved into, you know, and we can kind of trace the journey of all of that. But what we don't have, what we would actually need is a Mokele-Mbembe or a Brontosaurus or a Apatosaurus or whatever skeleton from 2,000 years ago. We don't have anything like that.
I mean, it's also, I think, similar to the same things that we've said about Nessie. if this creature, if this animal actually existed, there'd have to be more than one of them, right? Like Nessie, it hasn't been the same. Even if you assume a very long lifespan, like a tortoise or something like that, it hasn't just been swimming around by itself all these years. And also, like, if that's the case, then why haven't you found skeletons of its like recent ancestors anywhere ever?
If anything, I feel like that's more explainable from the Nessie perspective, because Nessie is supposed to be exclusively an aquatic cryptid. And at least then you can say, well, they're all probably at the bottom of the loch.
We're not going to find them.
It's hard to get there, right? Like that's justifiable. Mokele-Mbembe, like, yes, they are spotted in the lakes, in the rivers and stuff, but they're also spotted on land. And so it's really crazy to think that we never, ever, ever have found a Mokele-Mbembe skeleton at all. I don't mean, and when I say we, I think it's important to say I'm not just talking about European researchers who come to Africa to look for those skeletons. There are tribes, there are native populations that live in these regions that don't have bones that we can't identify as being something else, you know? Like there's no evidence at all anywhere. But for Roy Mackal and James Powell, the idea of this still living dinosaur in these remote regions was far too enticing to ignore. Powell, after watching Mackal's dissertation on the Loch Ness Monster, he went to Mackal and said, I am planning my next hunt for Mokele-Mbembe. And Mackal said, hey, buddy, can I come aboard? And while that pair of scientists may have actually been on a quest for scientific advancement, their naivete and their credulity was about to open the door and allow a particularly conniving philosophy to supplant science. But we will talk about that and the perversion of the neo-dinosaur mythology in our next episode.
Cool.
Yay.
Yay, perversion. Did you say perversion?
Yay, the perversion. It's both. It's perversion and the perversion of science.
Yay.
Yes, we did talk about two dicks in this episode. I'm wondering when there's going to be more of that, please.
Romantic zoology.
When are the dinosaurs and the dinosaur's gonna turn into a human and they're gonna start doing it?
Yeah,
that's what I hear happens in romance fantasy books.
Hell yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Chuck Tingle, please write a book about this. Write a romance book.
Honestly, Chuck Tingle probably already has.
Yeah, I'm sure he has, but but there needs to be like a more of a cryptozoological
Bent to
adventure.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is, there has been a lot of romance here. I gotta say, because we started out with the Cope and Marsh feud and how like the Bone Wars is just so
perfect,
so rich for that. Like it really, there's a lot of
just
slash
a bunch
fiction.
of dudes traipsing around in the desert fighting over bones.
Yeah. Oh, they're fighting over bones.
I want your bone. Give me your bone. I can see the dialogue is great.
Yeah. So next time we're going to start to talk about how religion makes its way into all of this. But I think it's important to remember at this point that this was really a scientific advancement, at least for a long time, and no matter what, we can laugh and we can poke fun at Heuvelmans and Sanderson and all of these things and the way that they approach these things, but they really were trying to bring an air of scientific understanding to this sort of strange biology, quote unquote, romantic zoology field. So
you got to appreciate that.
I do. I mean, part of the reason that I love doing this is because I'm obsessed with all of the strange and bizarre and sometimes downright crazy theories that these guys put out there. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? They were brave enough to go traipsing around in the jungle And, that's not me. So
Yeah.
I got to respect
Right.
that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And to their credit, like they did, these guys actually went to Africa and did their own searches. And I got to tell you guys, where they go in Africa is terrifying to me. And I would not want to go there.
Yeah, we read about it. It's that really dangerous jungle.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it next time. But it's like, it's another one of those places, kind of like we talked about with Allagash, where you self-rescue, dude. If you get bit by a snake or you fall down and break an ankle or something, you are going to die.
That's up to you. Yeah. You've got to solve that problem yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not helicoptering in, dude. It's like days and days and days of dense jungle, dense forest. Like, yeah.
That's for next time.
Yep. So get your safari gear ready. We're going there next time. In the meantime, if you're feeling generous, head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com, click on the support us button at the top of the page, and consider becoming a supporter there. Also, check out our merch store. We got a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, until next time, just be safe out there in that, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Slaying Monsters, the 40 in History podcast. If you like the podcast, there's a couple ways you can show your support. You can tell your friends, you can leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform, or you can head over to slayingmonsterspodcast.com and click on the Support Us button to leave a donation. For questions, suggestions, and other feedback, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and stay up to date by following us on socials at Slaying Monsters Podcast. Your support helps us grow, and we are truly grateful to have our listeners and community.